There's a real name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that, but it's the real Pocahontas, right? And she's dressed like a Moor. The more and more I'm looking into this, man. And I'm still not ready. It's a lot of information I'm trying to get through. You know, here's Benjamin Banneker. He had the almanac. He was dealing with astrology, and it's crazy how much astrology has to deal with this subject of law, right? These indigenous people that was already over here, right? And corporations, right? After this is the Virginia Company of London, right? This is King James creation, trying to get settlement in North America. They had to come over here and do business. Corporation. The root word of corporation is corpse, a dead entity, right? A non-profit corporation, right? Trying to make people citizens. And yeah, what really blew my mind was the Allah being Allah. That's the real law. All law is Allah, equals Allah. God, a government ordinance. And we got the doctrine of discovery. There's a whole lot to this, man. Right? And this stuff is playing out as we speak.
That it was a deputy involved shooting until my brother read it on the internet. And he shared with me, he said, brother, what was Sonia's address? And I told him, and he said to me, this says this is a deputy involved shooting. I said, a deputy involved shooting? What are you talking about? So in 2020, I think, I had quadruple heart bypass surgery. And I've wondered why God left me here in this world. And maybe it was so that I could tell this whole country that in order to honor my daughter, we need to pass the George Floyd Policing Act.
Going down the law and politics, get you to register to vote. When you register to vote, you're registering on a contract, right? Like I said, contracts go back to the papacy, the Pope, the papal bulls, right? There's a difference between rights and privileges, right? Your rights come from God. But when you sign them contracts, you turn over your rights for privileges. And people think, oh, yeah, we want privileges. No, you know. As a man and a woman, you already got God inherited rights, right? A privilege is something given to you by someone in charge. You get to do something with permission. A right is inherited, something which exists without permission from any power or authority. A privilege is a grant of permission from a power or authority to do an act. So there's a difference, right? There's connotative linguistics that's involved in this, all right? These people, the word jurisdiction is going to come up in this, right? The official power to make legal decisions and judgments. Federal courts had no jurisdiction over the case. Who has jurisdiction, right? Because these people are working for a corporation. All right. So let's get into it. Let's start with matter of fact, proclamation, right? Because this is supposed to be the Emancipation Proclamation is what freed the slaves, but it actually made slaves free, right? You didn't have to pay for slaves no more. A slave just show up at your place of business with a suit and tie on and a resume, begging to be your slave. That's what's going on now. A public or official announcement, especially one dealing with a matter of great importance. A public law is nowhere in this. This ain't got nothing to do with law. A proclamation. It's just a public announcement. All right. So you got this word right here that I just learned, which is pro se. The legal term of representing yourself is acting pro se, which means acting of oneself, right? If you decide to represent yourself, you may hear the lawyers or court personnel refer to you as pro se. So they'll get a prosecutor to go against you, right? Now, before we get into the real deep stuff, let's do this. Let's deal with astrology. We'll start off light, then we're gonna go heavy.
Peace, everyone. What we're going to go over today is a word called a parable. How many people have heard of a parable? Biblical parables? Okay. Whenever you see a scripture that says,
I ain't gonna keep on pausing it, but I just talked about parables and how Jesus only spoke in parables, right? And Jesus was beefing with who? Jesus said, "Woe to ye lawyers, you hinder the people from going within." Right? The people were spiritual, and y'all got them looking for something outside themselves for salvation, right? And the salvation is you're born with it, right? You're not born into sin. You're born into debt, right? With the birth certificate act. Here we go.
it's a parable, it derives from the Greek parabola. Okay? Every parable is a geometric figure. When you look up parable in a dictionary, do you have your dictionaries? I found this dictionary in the trash, by the way, but it's the only dictionary I could find that had a picture of a parable. So it's raggedy, but it works. So I hold on to it. Oh, yeah. If you want to show everybody what a parable is a geometric curve, okay, that aligns star clusters. And the specific star cluster we're going to go over today is the star cluster Pleiades. All right? The seven sisters. That's right. But it goes deeper than that. Okay? Job 9:9, 38:31, and Amos 5:8 speaks of.
My bad. One more thing. So we was just talking about Sirius, the dog star. I don't know if I still got that up here yet. How it's 9/11, K9. K is the 11th letter, and you got 9, so it's basically 9/11. And it's the brightest star, right? And I'm saying law is based on astrology. There go the cross right there. All right, the brightest star in the sky, which they say is the closest star in the sky. Well, we're going to get right back to it.
The Pleiades star clusters. And this is kind of important because the Pleiades star clusters are showing up this in December. So you know. In Job 9:9, in his suffering, so that you'll know what a suffering is and why Job suffered. Job suffered because he was in his lower state of mind. It's called your carnal self. Pleiades are the seven stars of Atlas. Okay? Atlas in Greek mythology was the one who held up the world on his shoulders. Okay, that's the watered down version. However, what it's speaking of is this part of your neck that connects to your medulla oblongata. And when you stay in your lower self, that is where your soul exits your body. Okay? But by knowing, you won't, if you know etymology, you will find how to break down parables. Okay? With the Pleiades star clusters, it's based on the power of 7. What? Yeah.
One more thing, right quick, yeah, because I've been wondering why. Because my go-to guys, males, right? David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, Bro Sanchez, it ain't been hitting the same. I think most of these speakers today that I'm gonna show today are women, and like they said, this cycle is changing. So I think this is this is explaining a lot because what we seeing with Kamala Harris, this stuff is playing out, right? This astrological predictions is playing out.
I have it right here. Okay, it's also called the Daughters of Atlas. And as I was saying, Atlas in Greek mythology was the one who held up the world, the seven continents and the seven seas. All right. However, when what this is talking about in Pallades and Job in the book of Amos is basically talking about the seven ruling planets. Okay. It correlates with the seven seals, the seven trumpet sounds, the seven churches of Asia. The number seven is recorded in the Old and New Testament 360 times. This is a parable. The number seven is recorded in the Old Testament and New Testament 360 times. Okay? The preamble of the Constitution has 52 words. 5 plus 2 is 7. There are 7 articles in the Constitution. 7 is the number that this planet vibrates on. You have 7 chakras. All right? Because the whole book of Job is about the number 7. So I can show you what he's talking about in these scriptures and what they mean. I have to write it backwards because that's how I remember it. These are the days of the week. Are you aware of the 7 days of the week? Okay, you know the etymology of that. This right here, where Saturn, this is the first Pallades stars, which is called the Gate of God. And this is called the Gates of Men. Okay? There's this thing called, when you ask your soul to come back into the flesh, you ask the universe for permission to get a physical body. Everybody's soul enters through Saturn, which is discipline. Okay, that's why they call it the gates of God. The gates of God and the gates of men is the common name is the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer, or the solstices, or known as the solstices. Capricorn and Cancer. This is the winter solstice. And this is the summer. Yes, each one is a gate.
Okay.
And in the book of Genesis, it's called the ladder of Jacob, Jacob's ladder. Okay. These 7 represents what we call, the first thing is Jacob's ladder, which is the 7 ruling planets, and then it's the Hermetic principles. I'm gonna just get the information up here, and then I'm more focused on not informing you, but whatever I give you to transform you. How when you leave here tonight, you can take what I learned and apply it to your life when you walk out this door. I try to make all my classes like that. Okay? It will change your life.
You got 7 sticks on the menorah, right? The Jewish menorah, right? And men, the aura of men, menorah, right? 7 different colors, 7 planets visible to the eye, right? 7 continents, 7 seas. Yeah, this planet vibrates off the number 7. 7 is the spiritual number.
Okay. Now, to give you the importance of this, each one of these gates have a specific time that rotates around your body. On your solar return, or most commonly your birthday, okay, you are in a cycle called opportunity. Okay, y'all have your dictionaries? And I'm going to show you how to go from gates of men to gates of God. In other words, that means complete in your destiny while you're on this earthly plane now, so that you don't have to come back to this madness. And on your day of your birthday starts with, it's called your sun cycle, or the cycle of opportunity. Can someone look up opportunity in the dictionary? Because it's very important that you know what opportunity means. Does anybody think they know what it means? Opportunity? You can use the skills that I've taught you so far. Take your time. Hmm? Port. Close. Yeah. Oh, he's looking it up. And then that raggedy dictionary, you can look it up in that one too.
Yeah, that is the clue, port, right? And see, a port is right in the middle of that. That's the clue.
To do something. Okay, that's connotative.
I'll look it up.
Go ahead.
Opportunity is now a favorable or advantageous circumstance or combination of circumstances.
Okay, but I want the origin of the word. That's still connotative.
Here they don't have the etymology.
All right.
Opportunity, yes.
Okay.
Middle English from Old French, opportune from Latin, opportunist from portal, means coming, toward, port. Ob means to, the ob plus portal. Called it the portus harbor.
Right. Basically, opportunity is the birth canal. Depending on the older the dictionary, some dictionaries go back to natus, born, some dictionaries go back to water. But if you look up port and you keep looking up the etymology of the words, when they say C2, you would get back to the womb, to the belly button, which is your only birthmark. But the older the dictionary, the closer it takes you to the womb. And I think that one only goes to placenta. That book, Placenta and Fetus, that raggedy dictionary. But what I'm saying is, the older the dictionary, more to the truth you would get to. All right, and it's very important that you look at various dictionaries in order to know the real, true origin of a word. Opportunity starts on your solar return day or your birthday. Every 52 days, okay, is a cycle. Every 52 days is a cycle. Okay, the first 52 days of your life is called your opportunity cycle, and that cycle deals with your character and your reputation. During the first 52 days after your birthday, that's what you're going to work on. However, it gets tricky. In Black Laws, are you familiar with Black Laws Dictionary? Okay, well, you have Abdullah, you got the thing. In Black Laws Dictionary, editions 1 through 4, character and reputation is a part of your moral obligation, or what is called jurisprudence. Okay, when you come into yourself and you know your name and nationality, you can sue somebody for defamation of character. But if you're not nationalized, you can't sue no one for defamation of character because you have an identity, so to speak. Okay? And that's what the real book of Job is really about. That's why we suffer, because we don't know who we are. That's why Job suffered. That's why everything was taken, but in the end, everything was given back when he went from the gate of men to the gate of God. Okay? And, it's really interesting. The Bible says a lot. Not what, if you don't mind me saying, most pulpit entertainers say, but you can get a good message out of it if you know etymology. You can't get it without it. So I'm just showing you the importance of etymology. Okay? Now, I'm not for or against any particular religion, because I can also break this down in the Quran, the Torah, the Rig Veda as well. But however, I do the Old and New Testament because most people are Christian that I come in contact with in Delaware. And I want them to see this is not abomination, deviation, and the work of the devil. The only work is the spelling that they do with that pen and that cursive writing. That's the curse and the spell. It's called grammar. And that's one of the liberal arts. And astronomy is one of those liberal arts. Okay? Now, when you're in the first 52 days of your cycle, which is your opportunity cycle, not only is your character and reputation, that is the point where you want to get out there amongst people in high positions, when you want to be recognized. During that period, more people are like to be drawn towards you when you have something powerful to say. Okay? No, starting on your Earth Day, 52 days. Okay, so your Earth Day would be 1. Okay? Because okay? And then on the 365th day is the actual start of your next birthday. You got to keep in mind, a parable deals with measurements. Okay? And our calendar system is off by 18 years and a fraction. Okay? But if you go look back at
That's because they added them extra 5 days, because it should be 360 days in a year, right? A perfect circle, right? 10 months, 30 days in a month.
Job, if you want to know what this is, this will be the vernal equinox, or spring. And during this period, the vernal equinox was entering Taurus and transiting from Aries. Okay? Okay? This is the closest chronology that they say, but somewhere along the line, I know it's much older. But we're just going to go with that for now. Because in 1944, all of that changed when they started using the atomic clock. And then they added wartime, and then you started springing forward and springing backwards. And then in 2008, before Bush left office, he wrote an executive order to change daylight saving times to November 1st. Did y'all notice that? Yeah. You didn't notice that? It used to be in September. Now it's in November. See, he changed time again so that you can't be aligned with the planets. And you can't get your chakras aligned. So all the yoga you're doing, all the breathing is for naught if you don't know what time it is. And this will get you back in tune with the cycles of nature, because that is what time is created from, the cycles of nature. So don't go by that clock. If you see the clock, it has 12, which is the 12 zodiac signs. However, go by your cycles, okay? Because it's very, very serious, because we're in the middle of a spiritual warfare. First they took our bodies, then they took our minds, now they're coming after our soul. It's serious. And this can get you back on track, okay? Because you'll be in tune with the Most High, you know? And what is so interesting about this, because in the book, in the New Testament, this parable corresponds, it says comparison. That's what a parable does. So anytime you have any scriptures and they call it a parable, it has to correspond with something. It needs another scripture to compare it with. The scripture that this goes with is, in my Father's house there are many mansions. Okay? It's the grand architect of the universe who built her house without tools, eternal. And they said that in order for us to remember of her existence, she created letters and numbers. That's how the Greek translated. I am what I am, therefore I am. That's what that means. It's a little Masonic code. Okay? Then the comparison with Amos 5:8 goes with 1 Kings, and it's 7:11 through 14. When it goes, I'm a son of a widow from the house of Naphtali, and Naphtali is Virgo. So now you understand where the son of a widow comes from. Okay, it's in the book of Kings, but you need all of this in order to get to that. You know,
I'm the son of a widow.
I'm a son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali. Naphtali just means Virgo. It's an Akkadian word. It's an Akkadian word. And then also, like, well, when we get to that part, I'll go over that. I don't want to move too far ahead. The next one, well, let me finish with the sun cycle. In that sun cycle, like I said, it's about your character and reputation. Please look up character and reputation in law. Not just what the regular dictionary say, but how it pertains to the law. Because I tell people in my class, if you say something about me that's not true, I am a nationalized Moor and I will sue you. So you better get your morals straight. You know, because Noble Drew Ali said that our thoughts, our words, and our hands should never bring harm to another. And that's what character and reputation is all about. You know, because I work hard to build my character and my reputation, and I don't want to destroy it. You know, so it's about being a humanitarian. You know, like I tell people, you know, the only helping hand you're going to get is at the end of your wrist. You know, and that's how you build your character, by doing for yourself first. It's called self-preservation. Okay, and that's what the sun is about. Because it doesn't ask you, can it come out every day? But it preserves you, correct? All right. Can't exist without it, correct? All right. The next one is the moon. Now, this is a very, very tricky thing. Is everybody familiar with their zodiac chart? Have everybody? Sort of? Okay, you never had a chart done? All right. Well, when you get your chart done, this will make more sense, you know, to you later on. But it corresponds with your astrological chart, because everybody was born with instructions. Okay? You made a contract with the universe. And that contract said, you promised to the universe you was going to learn a lesson and teach a lesson. If you don't do it, you coming back. My thing is, I'm trying to teach everybody about our ancient science, so we ain't got to come back to this. And the ones we leave behind, we can leave this behind so they don't have to come back. You know, that's uplifting for all of humanity. You know, the moon sign, your moon sign deals with your emotional security. This is what you inherit from your mother while you're in the womb. Whatever your mother was going through for the 9 months she carried you, it is embedded in your DNA. Because, believe it or not, in every ancient mystery school, okay, the child was brought here to teach their parents something. So say if you're a Virgo, you was here to teach your parents how to be more perfectionists, how to complete things. Okay? Aries was to teach their parents how to stand up, have a spine, don't let nobody push over on you. Taurus was about possession. You know, you ain't got to be broke. You really don't. You got intelligence. Come on, mom. Man, you all that creativity, imagination, and you say you ain't got no money. You can create money with your mind. You know what I mean? Gemini teaches their parents to communicate because most likely when they created that child, they did not know how to communicate. That's what Gemini's here for. I feel sorry for them. That's why I am. I'm getting there. Yeah, we're scary. No, no, we're not. Leo basically teaches people how to shine. The world is a stage, and I'm playing every part. Okay? Virgo, I went over that. Libra is more so, you've been unfair to me, and I'm going to teach you that you won't give me justice. You're going to respect me. See, Libra, that's one thing about Libras. They demand respect, even when they don't deserve it. You know? When we move on to Scorpio, Scorpio is about destruction and rebirth. They're what you call cleaning out, spring cleaning. Look, you ain't used it in 7 years, throw that mess away. What is wrong with you? This is too much clutter. Can't breathe. And if you don't get it out in time, you come home and your house is empty and everything on the curb. They don't hold on, you know, because my mom's a Scorpio. And she wake us up in the middle of the night. It's like, if you can't carry it on your back, it ain't going. We moving. So I lived it. You know, when we did a lot of moving. And, you know, she's like, we can start over. They got resale stores in every state. They got Goodwills all over. We can start over. Because she never believed in packing. She's like, and anyway, whoever move in this house, they might need it. She always left something behind. That's one thing I love about Scorpios. They're not greedy. They don't eat. They won't even eat all the food on their plate because somebody else might come in 10 minutes later and be hungry. You know, I learned a lot from them as well. Sagittarius. Oh, those dear philosophers. Sagittarius is a beautiful sign, but they philosophize a little bit too much for me. You know, I mean, they use reason and logic, you know what I mean? And they are the opposite of Gemini, you know. But however, when they're not conscious, Sagittarius can be deadly because the centaur with the bow.
Yes, indeed.
Their words cut and sting,
Yes, indeed.
you know, and you'd be like, dang, what did I do to you? Did you really have to say it? But really what they're saying is good for you. But I didn't need that right now. Don't you see I'm already doing bad? You know, but what I love about Sagittarius, their thing is it's not about the fall, it's how you get back up. And that's what that teaches you, okay? Capricorn. Capricorn's whole thing, they're the solitary ones. They stick to themselves. They're your organizers. They don't want to be in the forefront, but they know how to do everything and they know every damn thing.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that what this over here is?
That's why if you want to have her be a good friend to a Capricorn, buy them a book. You know, music and books is their thing. And they're often assumed to be non-emotional. They're not non-emotional. They just take life serious and don't feel like crying over the small stuff. Keep it moving. Okay, somebody die every day. Keep it going. I'm still here. Oh, I'm sorry you lost your mom, but look, hey, I'm still here. My children's still here. I got to keep it moving for the living. You know, and then sometimes we get a bad reputation for that. Because they be like, you don't care, you don't like nobody. Nah, I'm just saying, for real, I got my own problems. You know, and Capricorns is very abrasive about it at times. You know, but we mean it from our heart. We really do. We really do. Aquarius. I just look at Aquarius as, man, what am I doing here? You know, they're like, you know, that's the best way. I mean, because it's the water bearer, and a lot of people think it's a water sign, and it's not. It's an air sign. You know, but they're like, what the?
Actually, it's electricity.
Yes, it's electricity. And they will use it, won't they?
Yes.
You know, So being around Aquarius, I like that because sometimes when I get in my indolent stages where my confidence level go down, like especially if I'm writing a book, and I'll be like, ain't nobody gonna read this. I have my Aquarius friends that I can call that'll zap the energy in me and I get right back up and my confidence built up. So that's why I have Aquarius around me when I'm in my writing stages. Because they're honest, they tell you the truth. They be like, that sucks. Okay. They won't say, well, that's good. Just because they're my friend. They are honest, and that's one thing I love. Aquariuses really don't lie. And if they tell a lie, you can best believe it was done to save their life or yours. It's survival. Basically, the last but not least, Pisces. Okay? I didn't, yeah, I did Leo. Oh, I'm sorry. I know, but because that rules the moon. Okay? Okay? Pisces. Basically, Pisces like, dang, when y'all gonna get it? I mean, dang, how many times are you gonna repeat this? When are you gonna get it? See, 1 + 1 is 3. Man plus woman is child. When you gonna get it? Because we still saying 1 + 1 is 2. Pisces like, no, it ain't not the last time I checked. Because I'm a woman, that's my man, and we got a child. 1, 2, 3. When y'all gonna get it? Get back in tune with nature. That's the Trinity. See, that's what Pisces about. They get into their spiritual and they stay in their imagination a little bit too much. A little bit too much. Because sometimes their imagination and creativity hurts them and hinders them from accomplishing things on this carnal planet. Because they're so far up there. You have to bring them back down like a balloon. You got to tie them down sometime. Because they get up there, they don't want to come down. They really got to learn how to balance the divine and below, above and below. That's why Pisces have to be around other water signs, Cancers and Scorpio, as well as earth signs, because earth accepts water. Right. Okay, so Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces has to be around a Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn in order to stay balanced. If they don't have those elements in their life, they're unstable as water. Cancer, ruled by the moon. Whew, those emotions. The moon rules everything. All things consistent of water. This is a water planet called Earth. Your body's mostly water. Water is the most powerful element, not on the planet, in all the galaxies. I mean, it's a solid, it's a liquid gas. You can boil it, you can freeze it. You can do so many different things with water and it still come back to its natural state. Okay? The most powerful thing about water and the moon is because 777,777,777 sperm came out of your father's sac when he ejaculated, and you made it. You made it. You made it. Okay, that's all controlled by the moon. Okay, that's what a parable of Pleiades is really all about. That's what Job was talking about. And if you read Job and how he lost his children, each one is assigned to a planet. And in Revelations, the rebirth of those 7 planets or those 7 gates is called the 7 churches of Asia in Revelations. And when you got it right, in Revelations, Jesus is standing there with 7 stars in his right hand, getting his swagger on, leaning. It's like, come on, baby. You in the gates of God's. Come on home.
All right. Yeah.
That's what all of the twirling of the stars are, is in Revelation. Don't get spooked out. It just means your chakras align. You went from your lower self to your higher self. You had DNA explosion. Your pineal gland said, pop. Okay? It's just getting in tune with who you are. That's all it means. And that corresponds with chapter 25 of the Circle 7.
Okay. We in the 10 o'clock hour. I want to switch it up a little bit. Eventually, one day we're gonna come back to this lady. We ain't done with her, but I want to switch it up, right? Because we want to talk about law, right? We want to get that astrology in there because I'm saying astrology and law is the same thing. But I want this. We got one guy, right? This is a European gentleman. I want him to break down some common law, right? Because this is gonna lead into the next video, right? With this other lady, right? She about to drop some shit. So this is gonna be real quick. This guy gonna run through law. This is just so you know you don't have to be a Moor, right, to practice common law, right? Because this is about man and woman, right, and rights versus privileges. All right, so let's get it.
A video. about the foundations of common law. I know a lot of people have been kind of wondering about when we're going to start teaching that. We haven't started the new channel yet. That's still in the works. But I'd like to give you guys just the bare bones of it. I think it's important information. It's something that you're never going to learn in school or from anybody, really. They don't really want people to know this for the most part. It's very valid. It applies to today more than it probably has ever applied in history. I hope you get something out of this. A lot of folks didn't even realize this existed or what happened and why things are the way they are as far as legal remedies and that sort of thing. But I'm going to just step on the basics. I guess for lack of a better term, I've been led to give these talks to people. I've talked to several hundred already and continue to do so. And Gordy and I, every week, we have a group of people outdoors that we give this talk to, as well as some other uplifting, action-based messages that we can help people move forward. So anyway, he's not with me tonight. Obviously, it's just going to be me. So I'm just going to wait for a few folks to come in, and then I'm going to start off on foundational common law, something maybe you don't know a lot about, something maybe you've always been interested in but didn't know quite how it worked. I've been lucky enough to have studied common law for a decade and learned some things about it, and I want to share that stuff with you, or at least the foundations of it. I'll get some folks in here. Kathy. Hi, Gary. I got Steve Austin. I got JB from Tennessee. How you doing, bud? Glad to have you in here. A few folks live here, at least probably for the marriage, and that's where it ends. No, that's incorrect. And I'm gonna dispel some of those myths that maybe you've heard about it. I'm going to give you some remedies at the end of all this, so it's not all doom and gloom, although a lot of this information, people aren't aware of what has gone on, but I'm going to make it blatantly obvious. By the end of this, you'll know what happened and why it happened and what you can do to correct it, which is a process unto its own, but it's all doable, guys, I assure you. So what's common law? You're going to see me wearing my spectacles tonight because I'm going to have to read some of this up close. But what is common law? Well, I have a good definition for it here, and I'm going to read with you. It's called common law is man's law. It's law used to protect the common welfare of the people. It's simple law. It's basic law. It's law that is international to all folks. You were born with common law intact, and you will die with it intact. And basically, there's only one rule in common law, and that is do no harm. Do no harm. In other words, don't do harm to your fellow man or woman. That's considered a trespass, and you can hold another man liable for a trespass. And I'm going to explain a bunch of different things for you, but that is the basic definition. And I want you to keep a few things in mind here. I'm going to read you a couple terms, but they apply to what I'm going to say. You cannot create a license for something if it was not lawful to begin with. Okay, you can't create a license for something if it wasn't lawful to begin with. Lawful carries with it an implication of ethics and morality. And what's gone on today is there's a lot of compelled performance, which is a contract involved and compels you to perform under the terms of the contract. And sometimes it compels you to perform under the terms of the contract against your will. And I want you folks to know that we're basically not, we don't have to abide by what they're saying. We don't have to contract with those that we wish not to contract with. And in fact, you've got a choice whether you want to or not. So I'm going to start out on chapter 1, the foundations of common law. You're free under common law to do whatever you like as long as you do no harm. And like I said, that's the fundamental rule of it. So chapter 1 deals with the unlawful conversion of every man, woman, and it's fraud. And the fraud is actually called personage, Personage. So here's how it goes, guys. The record of live birth, okay, is the true document and the foundation of the theft of your child. It contains your parents' wet ink signature and the details of your properties, your birth, your given name, your family name are clearly written on it. So what's happened is you were born and the doctor or nurse brought in this form and they said, please fill this out. We'd like to register your baby, or we'd like to register your offspring. And that only started happening in Canada here in the 30s, I think it was. And before that, you were registered, you were written down many times in your family Bible is where they would put that. So you guys have probably seen family Bibles where you can see the whole genealogy of your family, the births and the deaths and everything else. Well, that's where they used to record that. I think in the United States, it was 1913 where they started registering people's offspring. So anyway, you filled out this thing called the Certificate of Live Birth. I just happen to have one. This is mine. And it looks something like this. And it's got my parents' signatures. It's from when I was born. And it's the original document. It's the document that they signed in the hospital. So here's where the fraud has gone on. The Register General received that record of live birth that I just showed you, and through fraud sends out a birth certificate to your parents. The birth certificate and the statement of live birth, record of live birth, are not the same instrument. They're totally different. One has your parents' wedding signature on it. The other one does not. The other one has what's called a CUSIP number, a CUSIP number on it, in red on the back of your birth certificate. Here's what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. See the red number? That's called a CUSIP number. And who owns that is the American Bankers Association. And I'll get to that in a minute, what they do with that number. So anyway, they send you the birth certificate to your parents. The birth certificate is not yours. It has nothing to do with you. It's 100% their creation. It's their vessel. A name which looks like your family name is written on it in all capital letters. You have been stolen from your parents is what effectively has gone on, and you didn't even know it, and your parents weren't aware of it either. So what they're doing is they're taking your family name and they're creating their own vessel. In other words, their own instrument from your family name in all capital letters. I'll get into that in a second too, what that means. And it's theirs and they own it. And what they're doing with that CUSIP number is they're trading you on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. They're trading you like a bond, like a trade. It's a trust that they've made. And you're not even aware of that. And they're even getting capital. They're getting loans based on that. And what this number means is basically your slave number. And they're using that based on what they predict will be your usable amount of tax income that you will generate for the state over the span of a 70-year livelihood. Most people live on average 70 years today. So anyway, that's fraud. Okay, that's a big fraud. So then they've used this instrument, the birth certificate, to create all kinds of things with that. And you guys know what those instruments are: your driver's license, social insurance, social security numbers in the States. They've created all that from this fraudulent document that they stole from your parents, right? And they stole your family name and they've stole your baby essentially on paper and made their own thing out of it. Wow, it gets better. So you're traded as a vessel under maritime admiralty law, and that's called the law of the sea. All documents you have are the legal fiction or the stolen name in all capitals. It's not you. You're not the man and woman on these documents. It's their creation. Remember I said they own that creation. It's theirs. A bond was issued under your baby's stolen name for all future tax earnings. You're treated as a vessel, a ship under maritime law, something in which they control. So that's the fraud. That's what's happened. If you don't believe what I'm telling you, go research it yourself. Just don't use Google as the search engine. Use something else. But that's exactly what's gone on. You've been traded. And they continue to trade your name to this very day under that number. And there's a lot of money in that trust, people say, that is owed to you and has been stolen from you. But anyway, some people call this the straw man. It sort of is, but it's not really the same thing. It's just the fraud. We call it the vessel, right? And all government ID has been created from that fraud, and it's all in capital letters. And the capital letters means capitis dimensus, which in Roman means the larger the numbers or the letters, the less status you have. So to have something written in all capitals means you essentially have no status at all. You have zero status. So that's why they're able to make it all capital letters, because it's got no, you have no status. They own it. So anyway, chapter 2, the maxims of law. The contract makes the law. And we're going to talk about service corporations. On one side, you have legal, and on the opposite category, you have lawful. And legal means persons on the water controlled by service corporations. What's a service corporation? Things like Burger King, Tim Hortons, any government institution, motor vehicle, RCMP here in Canada, Canadian government, Revenue Canada, all those are service corporations. Lawful means men and women on the land. One is the land and one is on the water. The lawful is the law of the land. You probably heard your grandparents say, well, you got to follow the law of the land. What they were talking about was common law. And you're born free under God, and the highest court on the land is also a common law court. And jurisdiction is equal to control. That's what jurisdiction means. Man is born free with dominion over the earth and is right under God as far as it goes. It goes God, man, and guess what do you think is at the very bottom of the list? Service corporations. They're right at the bottom as far as importance goes. So we're born free with dominion over the earth. We're born with rights. We'll die with rights. These rights cannot be turned into any governmental privilege by a stroke of a pen or by a piece of paper. This is why they can't take your rights from you, because they don't own them to begin with. You're born with them. They're intact, right? They're not privileges. They're rights. Jurisdiction means control. That's all it means. You often hear the courts battling over jurisdiction. Well, they're battling over control. Who has the control to do what? So you never accept any man's titles. Like, I don't accept the title of Mr., or I don't accept the title of citizen or taxpayer or whatever they want to call me. I don't accept those titles. The reason why is because those are contracts. Whether you know it or not, that is a contract you're entering into. And as I said, a man and a woman, man or a woman, have the right to enter into any contract they see fit, and they don't have to contract if they don't wish to. And I'll go into more detail on that later. So what do you do? So you know where the fraud started. You know where they got you. You know that when you enter the court of law that you don't have any status in there. That's why you need a lawyer to represent you. But what they're actually doing is representing you to the court, because you have no standing in there. You're considered a child, an idiot, a dead vessel in there. You have no standing whatsoever. That's why they always say you need legal counsel, because the words they're using in there is called legalese, and it's not anything you even know of. It sounds like the common everyday usage words that we use, but it's nothing of the sort. These words mean something entirely different. And if you read Black's Law Dictionary, I read book 1 to 9, you'll get an idea of what some of these words actually mean to them. And you have to be part of their society to use them. So that's why you're always ambushed, you're always railroaded if you ever get brought into their court. There's no winning in there. The only way to win is to stand in truth as a man or a woman under common law. So no contract equals no control or no authority. So basically what you have to do is what I did, is you have to correct your status with these companies, these service corporations. I wrote the government and I told them basically, I, a man known as, that legal name that they stole, being of sound mind and body and of a mature age, am capable to take care of my own effects. Thank you for your service for the past 38 years and for seeing to my affairs, but I will now be taking over my own affairs and going back to my original inherent jurisdiction, the one I was born with. You're all fired. And I wrote that letter and I sent it to the Prime Minister. I sent it to the Governor General. I sent it to the Department of Justice. I sent it to about 50 different agencies, all by registered mail, and have receipts for that effect. the dates of service and when they signed for it and everything else. So I know they got it. And there's other things you can do too, and we'll touch on that at a later date. So you correct your status, you make your own correct ID if you wish to. I registered my birth certificate with the Common Law Court of Great Britain, and the only place your birth certificate is currently registered is with the person that issued it. So mine is from Prince Edward Island. Well, that's where it's registered, is in the records of vital statistics and PEI. It's not registered anywhere else in the world, but it is now. It's registered with the Common Law Court of Great Britain. And we can go through that whole process. You can register your motor vehicles in there. You can get a bond. You don't have to run their license plate anymore if you don't wish. You can run the Common Law Court plates. You still have to have a bond to cover yourself if you cause an accident. You don't want to be in that type of a situation where you're going to wreck your whole life over finances. But there's other things that can be done. You correct your status. You send them all notice. I gave back my social insurance number. I gave everything back. Basically, you live as a man or a woman. It's all a choice. You can live as a legal person, the name on the driver's license, or you can live in your true correct status, which is a man or a woman. And people ask me, well, aren't you a person? No. Aren't you a human being? No, not a human being either. I'm a man. And that's all I can be 100% sure that I am as a man. And that's what I go by. So people ask me, well, how do you do that? Well, I just told you. You correct your status and you just live in your original right where you were born, where you came from. Common law isn't just common law marriage. And people say, well, that was just a system that happened in merry old England. That's not true. Common law hasn't gone anywhere. Here's common law. Here's the legal system. They put a smoke screen on you. They covered up common law with the legal system and told you that common law is no longer valid, that the legal system is the true law now. That is not the case at all, fellas. I'm telling you, it's still there. It's still valid. You can still choose to live either way, and it's your choice, 100%. And if you choose to live as a man or a woman, their acts, their statutes, their motor vehicle codes, all that garbage doesn't have any effect on you at all. Okay? It's
All right. Now let's get to the lady. This is the lady I've been telling you about. She about to drop some serious ish. All right, here we go.
For people like you.
Fair use. Shout out to this lady, man. I don't know her name, but the name of the video is Meaning of Words, Court Training, Introduction to Black Laws, right? Here we go. Here we go. I don't want to fast forward, I don't want to miss none of this.
Throughout the history of this country, the majority of us have believed that
Get you a pen and paper, man.
we were from Africa. I'm not going to start with that discussion tonight because most likely the reason you're here is because you already know we're not from Africa and that in fact this is our land. So beginning with that premise, whether you're more or not more, I'm going to start with what law really is. Most of us think that we go into a courtroom and understand the difference between a court and a courtroom, that the people who purport to use law really use words of art to make you believe, in fact, that law is on the table when you walk into a courthouse or a courtroom, when in fact that's not true. And I would like to share with you tonight, regardless of your religious persuasion, what law really is.
Hit the like button.
Law, and as Muslims would say, all law, is A-L-L space L-A-W, all law, all law. So for anyone who's of a Christian persuasion, don't be misled. And when you hear the term all law is God, all right? That is also what we would say in lawful terms, a misnomer. Allah is not God. God has no capacity and no standing to all law. Because God means governmental ordinance departments. There is no comparison. Now, who can use law? Law can only be used by people who are in their sovereign capacity. And as I will share with you tonight, the majority of the people in the world, and I'm not going to get into all of the details about that, but the majority of the people in the world, 99% of them live in slavery today. So in 1863, via the Emancipation Proclamation, and I challenge you to go look in a law dictionary and look up the definition of emancipation and proclamation, and you will see that a proclamation is not a law. A proclamation is a public announcement by elected officials. It is not a law. So the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 did not set any slaves free. What it did was standardized slavery, the United States being the model for the standardization of slavery, that all of the other nations around the world, as they reduced their people from their sovereign capacity and forced them to join nation states, then they were able to issue statute, codes, ordinances, resolutions on them. And a statute, as in a state statute of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is not a law. It is corporate policy of the corporation that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated. All right? Now, a code is not a law. The United States codes, the code of the laws of the United States of America that are used in federal court and the Supreme Court are not law. They are what they say they are. They are codes, ordinances, and resolutions of a municipality of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private nonprofit corporation that calls itself the City of Philadelphia. An ordinance and a resolution, as in parking ordinances, they are not law. They are what they say they are. They are ordinances and they are resolutions. All right? And the reason they are not law is because the only people who can issue law are people who are acting in their sovereign capacity. And the people who sit in these seats as elected officials are not, in fact, in their sovereign capacity. They are in a corporate ward status, meaning that they are wards of the state. They are members of the corporation, which is a nonprofit that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as long as they have a birth certificate on record with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with that birth certificate being a contract, a birth certificate is a contract. And as long as you have a contract with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, you belong to them. And that's what slavery really is, right? So who can use law? If you are a member of a corporate ward state, if you are a member of a corporate ward nation that calls itself the United States of America, you are a citizen. Look in the law dictionary and look up the definition of citizen. A citizen is not a sovereign. A resident is not a sovereign. Therefore, if you use an address, which is a fictitious number associated with a designation issued by a corporate ward, right? Then you become under the jurisdiction of those people who are also corporate wards, but who are also slaveholders, all right? So if you are operating in that capacity, law does not apply to you. If you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, which is a private nonprofit corporation, and you say you are a resident of the city of Philadelphia, then the ordinances and the resolutions of that private nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Incorporated, which is a private nonprofit corporation, then the statutes of that nonprofit corporation apply to you. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, which is a private nonprofit corporation, then the code of the laws, right, apply to you. But if you are a sovereign of the Moorish Empire, those ordinances, those resolutions, those codes, those statutes do not apply to you because you are not a member of the corporate ward state. It's as simple as that. And they understand the difference. This is why on their documents, they use words of art. They use the word label. They use the word person. They use the word address. All of these things that place you in their jurisdiction, and you unknowingly fill out forms every day. And every time you fill out a form, you enter into a contract. I don't care what kind of form it is. It's a contract. A driver's license application is a contract. A social security application is a contract. When you call up the telephone company and you make a verbal contract over the telephone, this is why they can bill you. When you sign a deed, it is a contract. When you fill out a voter registration form, it is a contract. Does everybody understand that? Don't ever think anything that you put your signature on becomes a contract. All right? Now, the fact that you are not in your sovereign status means that you make a contract as a minor. They don't care. They know you are a minor because, and to be other than a minor, you have to be in your proper person at law. And how we write that is this. Can I have a person? That's working. Can you bear with me for a minute and let me put this on because I can't. Can y'all see that? Impropria persona. Impropria persona. When you are in your corporate ward status, you look like this to the court. Pro se. Pro se meaning they get you in the court and they bring someone in called a got that? Pro se cutor, a prosecutor, because you're in a corporate board status. Now, if you're in propria persona, say in their criminal allegations, the prosecutor cannot come into the courtroom and say anything to you because you're not in pro se status. Makes sense, right? The issues of law. The issues of law are threefold. The issues of law are status, jurisdiction, and adjudication. The first thing that happens when you walk into a courtroom in your corporate ward status is that they already make the assumption that you are a ward of the state and that you don't know any better. So they immediately start adjudicating you. As Moors, the first thing that happens when we walk into a courtroom is that we place our status on the record. On the record. We come in with our flag. We come in with our treaty. We come in with the Constitution we signed with them, and understanding that the Constitution is a contract. It's a contract between who? It's a contract between the United States Republic and the United States of America. But there are certain clauses in that contract that apply to Moors, which takes us back to the Treaty of 1787. But that contract between the United States and the United States of America does not apply to us other than that part that discusses the treaty. So it's not relevant for us to go into any courtroom and argue about their ordinances, their codes, their statutes. The only thing we're in there to talk about is, have we violated the treaty? Have we violated that part, which is Article 6 of the Constitution, that applies to us? That's the only question in the courtroom, because the status of the individuals looks like this. You and the judge. There's nobody else that you need to discuss anything with in the courtroom besides the judge. The prosecutor is invisible to you. Now, what do you have to say to that judge? My honor, not your honor. What is your status? What is your name? What is your nationality? All right? And do not let them get away with saying, I am a U.S. citizen. You cannot be a citizen and sit a bench. You cannot be a member of the Bar Association, which is a private, nonprofit corporation that issues registration numbers to its members who do not have a license to practice law in any state. Because in order to have a license to practice law, you must have your proper person. And in order to be in propria persona in this country, whether that be North America, Central America, or South America, you must be a Moor. If they want to be sovereign, they've got to go home. They cannot be sovereign here. All right? The next issue of law is jurisdiction. Now, let me stick with status. What is the status of the prosecutor? What is the status of the district attorney? What is the status of Lynn Abraham? Does anybody in this room know her nationality? I don't. That's an important question to ask her if she serves me with any papers. Well, who are you? Where is your license to practice law? Where is your proof of naturalization in my land? Who gave you the authority to be here? Right? Who issued you authority to act in any capacity, to file any complaint or any charges against anyone? That's the question. And I say to you, she can't answer those questions, right? So then, if you go up into a courtroom and nobody else has the status to be there, automatically challenge the jurisdiction of the court. There's nothing else that you need to say. There's nothing else to be said. Stand mute. Let them proceed, because guess what? They cannot proceed. You have a question. After the phone.
How do we make them honor that information that you just passed on to us?
In the courtroom, as I have learned, because I've spent a lot of time there, right? There is a language of silence. After you've said what you need to say, don't say anymore. They will do the rest when you stand on your square. That's all you need to do. There's no need to stand there and argue with the judge, and trust me, I've done that. All right? And once you say what you need to say, they know everything else to do. But understand, they do not want you exposing the truth to their corporate wards, because every slave...
Pay attention to this. They don't want you. They don't want you to.
...that you take out of their corporation, they lose money. This is a money-making business. So don't go into the courtroom trying to expose the fraud. That's not your job. That's not why you're there. There's another venue for that. In that courtroom, because understand it's not court, because it's not law. And I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. So don't try to challenge them on the law. They already know that. They already know they don't have the proper status. They already know they're operating in your land fraudulently. All right? Just say what you have to say and back off. They will give you the window. And it's up to you. If you are educated enough about the law, you'll see the window, you'll recognize it, and then you'll be able to walk through it and walk out the door. But if you're not conscious, when they open the window for you, I'll give you an example, as I gave in class just a few nights ago. Went into the courtroom, and the judge has papers there in front of me, and he's just arguing with me. Young lady, you'd better come back here. I'm going to send all these officers I have at my disposal with guns to hunt you down and bring you. And he's just running his mouth. And the prosecutor slides me the paper to sign, and it was blank. Do you understand? Do you understand? So I signed the paper, because I know how to sign contracts and not be obligated to them. right? So I did that, signed the blank piece of paper. They took a copy, I took a copy, and I left. And I never heard from them again. But if I had stood there, as I shared with class, and I have done this, this paper is blank, and I'm not signing it, and right? So all I had to do was come into the courtroom and say what I had to say. Now, I know how to present myself in the courtroom, Islam, right? And see the window and walk out.
Thank you.
All right.
Islam, I self-law and master law. I self-law and master.
Now, the next issue at law is jurisdiction. We already know they don't have the status. Now, do they have the jurisdiction? The answer is no. Because in order to have jurisdiction, you must first prove status. Everybody in the courtroom must have status on the record. Why is that so important? Because unless their status is on the record, what country do you represent? Says what law you're here to get justice on, right? Now, if you have not clarified the status for the record, you can't bring your law into the court. Because, and to be other than a minor, you have to be in your proper person at law. And how we write that is this. Can I have a transparency? That's working. Can you bear with me for a minute and let me put this on, because I can't. Can y'all see that? Impropriate.
For some reason, the video doubled back, so I gotta fast forward it.
After this one.
How do we make them honor?
See, the brother came back and asked the question, so I'm gonna skip that.
All right, and see the window and walk out.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the next issue at law is jurisdiction. We already know they don't have the status. Now, do they have the jurisdiction? The answer is no. Because in order to have jurisdiction, you must first prove status. Everybody in the courtroom must have status on the record. Why is that so important? Because unless their status is on the record, what country do you represent? Says what law you're here to get justice on, right? Now, if you have not clarified the status for the record, you can't bring your law into the court. So there can be no court. So status is very important. And so if you're Moore, and let's say somebody else is Manchurian, and I'll get to that in a minute. When you have two people of different standings in the courtroom, you have to decide what law applies. Is there a treaty between the two? Do they have a constitution? Do they have any other trade agreement or contract that binds them and obligates the parties? That's the question. All right. So if you walk into the courtroom and they immediately start adjudicating, you have no idea what law they're using. And I guarantee you, because status has not been established for the record, they're not using any law that applies to you. And they're not using any law that applies to them. They're simply using corporate policy, which is discretionary. If they like you today, they'll let you off. If they don't like you tomorrow, they'll give you some time or a fine. Okay? So status and then jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is going to determine what area, what geographical area encompasses the authority that that judge or that court has. All right? So if you're in a municipal court or a court of common pleas, don't go in there talking about the Constitution, because they don't have jurisdiction to discuss the Constitution with you. Do not go into a state court discussing the Constitution unless it's the state's Constitution, because the United States' Constitution, they have no jurisdiction over, but they won't tell you that. They'll dismiss the case. Different jurisdictions. And don't go into federal court talking about city ordinances. You understand the difference? Okay. Jurisdiction. Then adjudication. Once you get to the part about adjudication, you have to ask the question, do you understand the law that applies to you, that applies to this matter? Because there's two types of jurisdiction: jurisdiction over the matter and jurisdiction over the person. All right? Does the court have both? They must have both in order to proceed. They don't tell you these things, but this is very important. So if the court has gotten to the point of adjudication, all right, which for me, I don't have that problem. But once the court gets to the point of adjudication, then they're ready to start prosecuting. They're ready to find you guilty of something, some kind of way. And the reason for that is because it's a business. And once you enter there and they seize jurisdiction over you, they adjudicate for the sole purpose of getting some money. That's the bottom line. They don't care about you, whether you're innocent or whether you're guilty, none of that. How much money are they going to get out of this? And their little club that they have called the Bar Association, their members have to be fed. So they want to make sure that this one gets fed and that one gets fed. And that's fine, because that's their corporate thing. That's the way they make money. And if they're going to make money being deceitful and all that, that's the karmic baggage they've got to carry. But you don't want to be a participant to it. That's all. Okay. Color of law. Colorable, color means something that pretends to be something that it's not. Colorable court, colorable money, colorable law, colorable people. Any people who call themselves colored, Negro, African American, Indian, Puerto Rican, Chinese, Australian, all of these are colorable labels, but these people, for the most part, around.
Oh, you thought China was sovereign? Nah, you ain't no getting away from this. They all practicing the same process.
Around the world don't even know this, but because they call themselves Chinese, as I was getting ready to say to you, they are part of a corporate nation state as well, because the country of China is Manchuria. The nation state, the corporate ward nation state is China. That is not the country or the sovereignty of the people. The people are Manchurian. All right? You understand? Say anybody who wants to call themselves Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico is a corporate nation state. It is a private, nonprofit corporation that has a charter issued by the Moors, where they have the authority to conduct commerce and trade on the island of Borincano. Borinqua, right? Borinqua. That's the name of the people. Borincano is the name of the island. Puerto Rico is the private nonprofit corporation that has the charter to operate within the geographical boundaries of Borincano. Most Puerto Ricans don't even know that. I go around telling people all the time, you're not this, you're not that. This is who you really are, because people have grown up into slavery for generation after generation in all these corporate nation states who belong to the United Nations, which is a private nonprofit corporation trade association for nation state corporations. Got it? In order to belong to the United Nations, you have to be a corporate ward state, nation state. Otherwise, they don't want you. And they will go to war against a country and take the people out of their sovereign capacity and say they're setting up democracy all around the world so that they can take people out of their sovereign capacity and take them
Afghanistan, Iraq,
away from the law and impose corporate statute on them. And that's exactly what they do. All right? Now, color of law is in full swing all around the world. All around the world. And they have a clique where they're all intermingled and they all agree to participate together in this game, right? Now, it doesn't matter where you go. Just like most people think you need a passport to travel from company to company to company that are called nation states. So you do need a passport if you call yourself Black or African American or a U.S. citizen or any of those things. Yes, you need a passport to travel from one corporate nation state to another. But when you're traveling from one country to another, you do not need a passport. And those countries will tell you you don't. Depends on what you call yourself. You understand? Okay. Why do we have colorable law and colorable courts? During the Civil War, the Moors went to war against each other. Now, we destroyed ourselves in this. The Europeans did not come here and bring us down. We did that from inside, and they capitalized on the carnage. Do you understand? All of these buildings all around here, as I told in class last night, they're ours. They belong to us. They're ancient, these buildings. There's a whole city underneath this city. They've been burned all the major cities, the major energy centers on this globe we call an earth. Our ancestors set up these energy centers that we call Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Detroit, right? Chicago, Miami, Phoenix, Los Angeles. They are energy centers. They're not where they are in huge, large cities just because of some coincidence. There's energy and power in these places. London, Rio de Janeiro, all right? And by the way, we're going to spell it like this, Rio de.
All those cities she just named, I'm not totally sure, but I'm pretty sure that they all sit right close to a large body of water.
Day, which is a normal title of the Moors, Rio de Janeiro. You understand? This thing is worldwide. This flag that we carry with the red flag, with the 5-pointed green star, with the pointing up, all right, is a worldwide flag. It's recognized all around the world, all right? So the reason we have colorable courts and colorable law is because during the Civil War, when the Moors warred against each other, there were those who agreed to participate in the game called the corporate ward game. And there were many who made a lot of money. They got a commission on everybody they got to sign a birth certificate, because the birth certificate is a contract that puts you in slavery. And they got money. William Penn got very rich, all right? All the Quakers got very rich. All the abolitionists got very rich on this Civil War ward state game. Robert Morris and a lot of these buildings that are named after these people in downtown Philadelphia became multimillionaires, and their ancestors are still wealthy today over the corporate ward game. All right? Now, the reason that we have to have colorable law and colorable courts is because so many of us agree to be slaves. We don't need colorable courts and colorable law otherwise. But the people who agree to be bound by the 14th Amendment, which covers civil rights, which covers Negroes and African Americans and Jews and Hispanics and Indians and all these people like that, if you agree to call yourself that, they have to create a statute that applies to you, because law doesn't apply to you. So it's not their fault. It's the fault of the people who agree to be outside of their sovereign capacity. Okay? And now, if you walk in and you want to reestablish it, they're at odds because they're not accustomed to people walking in who are conscious and sovereign. Hey, you can't separate the two when you walk into a courtroom. And when I say you walk in on your square, I don't mean standing with your feet at a right angle. All right? I mean, and not to be deterred when you know you're in the and you have law on your side. Do not back down. But you do not have to be belligerent. Trust me, I've been there. Don't do that. Okay? Now, the law of the land. The law of the land, as it applies to the United States of America and the United States, is their Constitution. The law of the land, which supersedes that, which if you go and read the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, you will see that the treaty, in particular the Treaty of 1787, which was last signed and ratified in 1986, all right, it's re-signed every 50 years, that it's the treaty that is the actual law of the land. Now, that being the case, how do we make that treaty work for us? We always say they're not honoring the treaty. This is the oldest treaty in the world. Did y'all know that? And it's the only unbroken and longest standing treaty in the world. Did y'all know that? Now, that treaty protects us. You need to go get a copy of it, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787, all right? Signed by the Emperor of Morocco. Actually, he signed it in the month of Ramadan in the year 1201, all right? Which translates into the Gregorian calendar year of 1787, because they added 586 years to our calendar, all right? So, in terms of using the law of the land, and when you express these things to them, you don't even have to go into a lot of detail about it, because those who rule and those in government and those who sit on those judicial benches know what this doctrine is, and they adhere to it. But the problem is there's not enough of us standing up defending it. Okay? How to correct the issue? The people must be in their proper person. The people must act in their sovereign capacity. As the brother said earlier, how do you behave as a sovereign? How do you behave as a sovereign? You behave as a sovereign by not getting so upset and ranting and raving and causing a scene. There's no need to do any of that. As I said in the courtroom, as in with law enforcement and any of that, there's a language of silence. Just like the mummers who march down Broad Street every New Year's and they're playing it up and playing it up. What does mummery mean? Silent mockery. Who are they mocking? Us. All right, but they understand the language of silence, and they deal in it all the time with their secret signs and symbols. But don't be angry with them for using these things. Why not? We taught it to them. Okay, don't be angry with them because they have gotten out of control with the power that we gave them. We created these people. We can't now turn around and say, now we don't want you. Now, go off someplace else and this and that. And if you know the history, you know that what the Moors did to these people when they were first created. The Moors considered them subhuman. They couldn't speak Latin, which is our original language. They couldn't go to school. They couldn't own land. They couldn't vote. They were totally disenfranchised. And this is why the Moors commissioned Benjamin Bay, who you know as Benjamin Banneker, who is also Benjamin Franklin, by the way, okay, to teach these people the science of government. He did that for a select few. Unfortunately, it couldn't go and spread as widely as it should have been. Now we have a situation on our hands where we as Moors refuse to be who we are. In the civil rights movement, there were those who led it who were paid to get us off our square, and we agreed to be there. We agreed to be called black, and we're proud of it, remember? Now, who could tell us any different? Now, the Europeans have a dilemma because they've lied to us so much and we have forgotten so much that if they stand up to tell us the truth, would we believe them? The majority of the people who call themselves African American right now, if you tell them they're not from Africa, they'll give you hell. Am I right? Yes, we are. Now, can you imagine you're getting that feedback from them. Can you imagine what they would say to a European who now try to tell them they're not from Africa? You understand? Now you've got Bill Gates, who's given $1 billion to the United Negro College Fund, to keep more Negroes out of their sovereign capacity. And they jump right into the boat, right? Play it up to the hilt. Oh, what a great thing he's done. They love him to death. Now, if the Moors try to stand up and say who the man really is, you got all these black people who are going to criticize you. Leave the man alone, they'll say. All right? But we know the truth. So we correct the issue only by standing on our square, whether we're Moors or whether we're not. All right? Now, let's talk about what law really is.
That's the reason why I like her, because she's saying you really ain't got to be a Moor, but, you got to be a natural, living, breathing person. You feel me?
Law is based upon the science of astrology, astrologic. Don't let anybody ever tell you that astrology is for entertainment purposes. It is the science that rules. It is the science that governs. As I said to you, what all law is, all law. All law. Do we praise all law? Absolutely. Do we praise Christ? Absolutely, because what, not who, what is Christ? Christ is the great I am.
I am.
And if you know what Islam means, let me tell you this. I, self, law, am master. I am the master of my own fate. I am all law. All right? When you walk into
Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. It's you.
the courtroom and you know these things, trust me, you get a different result. When they ask you your name, you never say, my name is. That's a label. What do you say? I am. I am. You never swear on the Bible. You affirm. You affirm on the Bible. And as Sister Thanai here said to me, oh, they try to trick you. They'll say, do you swear or affirm? No. You just say, I affirm. Because what? I am. And who you are. And that's your status. And nobody can compete with that. Nobody can take that from you. And no matter what paperwork you submit to a court, what is the most important thing is when you walk into a courtroom and you speak the law. And when you speak the law in a courtroom, guess what? You speak it into existence, because a thought is an activity. It's real. It may not be something you can touch, but as soon as that thought transpires into a word, it becomes a spell. That's why they call it spelling. You get it? Now, law is based upon the zodiac. Now, when you walk into a courtroom, there's all kinds of things going on. There's sacred geometry going on in the courtroom. In fact, the courtroom is set up according to sacred geometry. All right? And here's what happens when you're in there. The judge is at the top of the triangle. Got it? When you walk in there, and as I had shared in another class, to deal with marriage, it's the same thing. And I'm going to talk about that also in a minute. You walk in there, and when you appear, never tell the court that you are appearing. Look in the law dictionary and find out the definition of appear. Never do that. You go into the courtroom and you make a what? A special appearance. Not general. That will get you in trouble every time if you appear in a courtroom. And all of these little nuances, they know these things. And they are put there to trap you who don't know. So when you walk in there and you're on your square, being on your square means to know these things and not to walk in the courtroom uncomfortable. Because when you know them, you have no reason not to come to court, do you? You want to be there because you want to make a special appearance to challenge the jurisdiction of the court. Why? Because of the lack of status. And once jurisdiction is challenged, it must be proven for the record. It must be proven for the record before the court can proceed. Do you understand? The judge must come with his nationality papers. He must come with the flag of the country, not the nation state that he represents. That United States flag with the 50 stars, which now should be 48 because there are only 48 states. Did y'all know that? 2 of them dropped out, Hawaii and Alaska are no longer states. Did y'all know that? They're no longer states. They're no longer states. The treaty was up. They got out. All right. I'm kind of going through a lot of things right now, and okay. All right. The law is used by people in their proper person. When you walk into the courtroom, you should always have your paperwork precede you. Don't walk in there without first having submitted some document to the court to let them know that, yes, I'm coming. And look in the law dictionary and look up the definition of come. It's different than appear. Now, you can come to the courtroom, all right, and make a special appearance. You understand? Never, you get the subpoena or whatever it is in the newspaper, and don't believe all this other stuff where they tell you don't go to court if you get these papers, because they will put a manhunt out for you, and you do not need that. And there's no reason for you not to go. You should go. You should go, and the more of us that do go and challenge the jurisdiction and let them see we're not scared because we're standing on the square, they will stop calling you to court. All right? Because the people who operate in their proper person, and the more and more of us that go in there operating in our proper person, they're going to begin to see the game is up. The secret's out. We can't do this anymore. All right? Justice died upon the cross. What does that mean? I'm no artist. That is the
That's that same symbol Tariq, Taj Tariq Bey made.
cardinal points of the zodiac. Cardinal, as in Catholic Church, cardinal.
For the dream catcher.
They are your deacons of the zodiac. Deacons, as in the Christian church. They are your cardinal points. And they apply to everything you do. Who you are, your character, everything that surrounds you, your environment, the country where you live, everything is affected by the different signs of the zodiac. When justice died on the cross, here's what happened. That's our solar system, and that's the sun in the middle. And that's Earth, the third rock from the sun, which is its planetary position. That's not its name. And its planetary position will be changing, is changing every day. And it's speeding up and getting closer and closer to the sun until it will occupy the second position, rock from the sun. This is the natural life cycle of a planet. And all the planets are coming in, and then more planets are being created out further beyond Pluto. So what they call the greenhouse effect is the natural heating up of the planet. And all those who cannot meet the heat requirement as the planet heats up will be eliminated from the planet. This is the science of the zodiac. Now, just like we have the zodiac, which I just showed you, based upon what is called the geocentric form of astrology. Geocentric because it's centered based on the earth as its center point. Then there's the heliocentric form of astrology, which is based upon the sun being the center. Sun is helio, earth is geo. Everybody understand that? Now, just like we have our signs applied to the earth here, the sun also has its center point here. Everybody understand that? Does everybody understand that our entire solar system is spinning around the Milky Way? The earth spins on its axis, the moon spins on, right? Spins around, well, let me back up. The moon doesn't spin around the earth like they told you, but the moon does have a cycle. Now, the earth spins on its axis and the earth spins around the sun. The sun spins on its axis and this entire solar system spins around the Milky Way. Everybody understand that? That's basic, right? Very basic. Now, check this out. It takes the sun 26,000 years to make one revolution around the Milky Way. Everybody understand that? This is science here. I'm not trying to make up stuff just to lie to you, okay? And all of this, believe it or not, is relative to law. That's why I'm explaining it to you. All right? And the subject is justice died upon the cross. So I'm coming back to that, but I have to give you this information first so you'll understand. 26,000 years for the sun to make one journey around the Milky Way. All right? If we divide that by 12, why are we dividing it by 12? There are 12 signs of the zodiac. All right? Now, if we divide it by 12, this is the number. (2,166 years. So our solar system spins 2,166 years in one sign. We just left the age of Pisces. An age is equal to 2,166 years. Now, you've heard the term, an age, but nobody ever thought about it. We say for ages, what's an age equal to? Mathematically, it's equal to 2,166 years. Got it? Now, we just entered the age of Aquarius. All right, 2,166 is represented here. You see that? So each one, right, has a time frame of 2,166. Everybody understand that? Here's what happens. I don't need to write all of them, right? You all understand the point. We just left the age of Pisces, which was, or an eon. An age and an eon are equal to 2,166 years. Now, we just left the age of Pisces, which is represented by what we know as Jesus. This is why Jesus is represented by the sign of the fish. It's over. The age of Pisces is over, all right? Not to come around again until we go through all of the other 11 signs of the zodiac. Now we're in the age of Aquarius. What does that mean? Justice, and any Mason will tell you, if he can unravel the allegory, is Jesus. Jesus was born. Why? Because what's the opposite of Pisces? Jesus was born of a virgin mother. Virgo is the virgin. Virgo is the virgin, right? Who in here is Virgo? Anybody? Virgo is the virgin, right? Okay. So Jesus was born of the virgin mother, Virgo. Got it? All of this stuff in the Bible, because understand that the Bible is not a religious book. The Quran is not a religious book. They are science books. Biblios Heliotech is the Bible. It's the full Latin name of the Bible. It is the science. It's an elementary science where Moors are concerned. It's the science of the study of the cycle of the sun. Helio meaning study, meaning sun. Biblios meaning record of. Y'all understand? The Quran, chronology, maxima, the great chronology. The Quran is the great chronology of the science and the study of the asteroid, of the astral plane. You understand? Okay, so justice died on the cross. Here's what happened. Those that we call Europeans or Albions, ruled during the age of Pisces. So when we say the time is up, we're not just saying this by conjecture. We're saying this because the time, the 2,166 years that they had is over. I'm not saying this because I have any bias against them or any of that. This is the science of it, and they know it. The problem is our people are not ready for it. How can justice return under the age of Aquarius if we're not ready? The age of Aquarius demands information. It is the technology age Aquarius is. Aquarius demands answers. Our youth demand answers. They demand the truth. They demand this truth because they cannot.
That's why the internet became popular, in the 2000s. But 2001, 9/11 was officially the start of the age of Aquarius, right? When the planes hit the towers. That's why they did it on 9/11. Because 9 is the end, 11 is the awakening. So 9/11 is to end the awakening. You're supposed to wake up.
Proceed and lead the world without this knowledge. They cannot do it. They cannot do this without the understanding of the zodiac, which is this. Zodiacus is the ancient name of the term zodiac. Zodiacus implies the first woman, who is this. Womb man. We are man with a womb. That's who we are. No spirit can enter this plane without the agreement of a womb man. Period. We are the vehicle. We have a covenant with the cosmos where we agree to bring those spirits, which we call monads, from the astral plane and summon them to this physical plane. And it is only through the womb man that they can leave, exit, and then reposition themselves in another plane. All of this relevant to all law. Now, this is why when the brother talked about getting our land back, I know this issue very well. I fight this fight every day on top of all my other duties and responsibilities and everything else that I do. So when we talk about justice returns under the age of Aquarius, this is why when we walk into a courtroom and we understand that the court, as I explained to a class just recently, a court is also a corporation. They don't hide that from you. They put it right on the seal, right behind the judge. And they tell you that this court was incorporated in 1878, whatever it is. This court was incorporated. And what words do they use? Founded. So when you see the word founded and you see the word established in, it already tells you that they're a corporation. Understand? And anybody who owns a corporation does what? Own a slave. Because a corporation is a slave holder. Understand? Now, let's talk about the issues that come up in court. How am I with time, Noah? All right. The point I want to make real quick relative to going to court and getting land back and all these issues and all these injustices that have been done to us, when we participate in organizations that take us off our square, that adds to the chaos and the confusion. So it's better not to join anything at all and just be yourself if you're not going to be a Moor. But even if you're going to be a Moor, understand that sovereignty is an individual thing. Don't go into court talking about I belong to such and such organization. And be clear about
Exactly. That's why I showed the video of the European man, because it's all about self. You come into this world by yourself and you're gonna leave out this joker by yourself. So being an individual is important. That's why they keep wanting to group you up, because they can group you up, they can put a leader in front of you, and then they can control that leader. And then by controlling that leader, they control everybody who's under that leader.
that, because as soon as you say an association, an organization, a business, a firm, a corporation, you're talking about slavery. And they love that language because you're putting yourself right in their jurisdiction as soon as you say it. But you go in there and say, I am. Well, what organization do you belong to? Well, none. They do not know how to deal with you. But as soon as you say corporation, because they're a corporation and they speak the corporate language and they have corporate policy, they'll love you to say that. So the first thing they're going to do is, how are we going to get some money? All right? Because that's the name of the game, money. Now, let's talk about who they are, why they exist, these courts. First of all, we know they're not really courts. We know they're colorable. They know they're colorable. They have to be colorable because they're dealing with colorable people, right? If we choose not to be colorable, we don't belong in there. So the court is this. Just like the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, just like the Bar Association, just like the United States of America, they are this. They are a private nonprofit corporation. If you get some mail that belongs to me, do you go and show up and say you're me? No, you can't do that. So if a private nonprofit corporation sends you a document and you have no contract with them, why should you go up and debate the contract? Because if you don't have a contract, right? If you don't have a contract, you don't have a contract. It's as simple as that. You don't need
All right, we're gonna close that after this when she talk about these contracts.
to go there and say all that. Just say, because here's my status and this and that and the other, right? Don't go in there trying to debate whether you owe money on the contract or not. The bill was too high and all that. And I'm not saying that because of what you said. Understand that. If you don't have the contract, why are you discussing the bill? It doesn't make sense, does it? First, you have to have a contract. So the first thing you need to understand when you walk in there, I don't care what the issue is. Here's the question. And I write things down, specific things I write down, because when I write them down, I'm spelling. Understand? Do we have a contract? If I rescind my birth certificate, do I agree to belong to the corporate ward state that calls itself the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is a private nonprofit corporation? If I don't have a birth certificate with you, what agreement do we have that you should summon me to answer anything, right? If I don't have an agreement with the parking authority, which I don't, do they have the right to send me a bill saying that I owe them for a parking ticket? It's ludicrous. Now, the thing to say is, if you don't have the contract, you have certain rights, and you need to exercise those rights. And there are codes even that are there and laws that are there to protect you if you don't have a contract with somebody and they're trying to make you adhere to a contract. I don't care what kind of contract it is. If you don't have a driver's license and they pull you over, the first thing you need to say is, I don't have a contract. They may still give you the ticket, but understand that if there are other things, which I already explained in the language of silence, which because we are amongst non-Moors tonight, I will not show you. However, there's a language of silence that you can speak to these people and they will not bother you. You can trust me on that. However, if you're not comfortable and you happen to get off your square and you get the ticket and you have to go to court, that's the first thing you have to say. I don't have a contract. And all of these courts, because they are corporations, the only type of policy they can deal with is contract policy, not contract law, contract policy. So the first thing you must ask is what? Do we have a contract? If the answer is no, then I'm here under threat, duress, and coercion. You are violating my rights. It's as simple as that. You have no other reason to be there. Does that make sense? Okay. If the state comes in and says, you're not treating your children right and we want to take them, right? The first thing you have to say is, state, do I have a contract that says I gave my children to you? Did I, at what point, produce the contract? Produce the contract. If you send me a bill, and understand that if you belong to the corporate ward state, you can't make these arguments because you do have a contract, which is the birth certificate, which is the marriage license, which a marriage license is your contract, is the woman's contract with the state and the man's contract with the state. It's not a contract between the man and the woman. Never was, never will be. Unless you have a prenuptial agreement or something else, you don't have a marriage contract with the one you think you love. You have a contract with somebody else who becomes a third party to your life, always, till you rescind the contract. All right? Because that's not how you get married. Marriage is under all law. All right? And then what you're responsible to do is to place the oath that you take between the two of you on the public record. Where? Where do you place information on the public record? Do you know? With the county. The counties are ancient. They belong to us. They belong to us. Our ancestors named the counties. Our ancestors formed the counties. Our ancestors set up the government.
Do we have a contract? Allah, Allah. Shout out to Heather Green, Dante O, BD Chief, Love Within Reality. I gotta mod you up, Heather Green. I gotta mod you up too, BD Chief. I got you. All right, man. Peace, love. We up out of here, man. Peace. I'm gonna do some more research on this, man, and so I can do most of the talking. And I can break it down even more simpler. It got to be broken down even more simpler for me. So I appreciate y'all, man.